Your TV is cheaper than it's ever been. Your life is more expensive than it's ever been. Both true. Let's talk about it. A flat screen costs about 97% less than it did in 2000. Toys? Down 70%. The software running your entire life? Basically free. Buy every gadget you own, you're richer than a literal millionaire from 1995. So why does life feel like it's financially choking you? Because in that exact same time, hospital bills went up 220%. College up 178%. The stuff that got cheap is the stuff you can skip. The stuff that went nuclear is the stuff you literally cannot. And why that split happened is one of the most galaxy brain facts in economics. Buckle up. We've got this one word, inflation, and we treat it like one big blob. It's not one thing. It's two opposite things happening at once, and smushing them into one average hides the whole plot. There's a famous chart economists literally call the chart of the century, built from official government price data, and it splits the economy into two groups that have been sprinting in opposite directions for 25 years. One group, TVs, electronics, toys, clothes, software, nosediving. The other, healthcare, college, childcare, rent, going to the moon. Same country, same years, two totally opposite fates. And the difference between those two buckets is basically the reason you feel broke. Let me build it up layer by layer because each one makes the next click. And this isn't me ranting, it's all from the Bureau of Labor Statistics price data and actual economic research going back to the 1960s. I'll even tell you where economists disagree, because the honest version is way more interesting than the clean one. Let's go. Let's slap real numbers on this, because the scale is genuinely unhinged. From 2000 to 2024, going up, hospital services, plus 220%. College tuition, plus 178.
Textbook plus 162.
Now going down, televisions, minus 97%.
Toys, minus 72.
Software, minus 70. Now look at what's in each pile. The cheap pile is gadgets and goods. Physical stuff, mostly built overseas, mostly things you buy once or can totally skip. The expensive pile is services, health, school, care, shelter, stuff made by people here that you absolutely cannot opt out of. That's the whole game right there. One bucket is toys. The other bucket is your actual life. And they've been ripping apart for 25 years. Start with the falling prices because that half is pretty chill. Two things crushed the price of things. One, globalization, trade barriers dropped so your TV could get built wherever on earth labor was cheapest, and global competition is brutal on price. Two, automation. Making a TV in 2024 takes a tiny fraction of the human hours it did in 2000. Robots, scale, better processes. Economists call this stuff tradables. And tradables have a superpower. We get way better at making them every year, so they get cheaper every year. Your phone is a literal miracle that costs less than 1 month of childcare. That's not random. That's what happens when something can be automated and built anywhere. Cool, cheaper stuff, great, except here's the twist that turns the cheap stuff into a trap. Now the hard half, why services went nuclear. And this is the idea I really want stuck in your head, because it's one of the most counterintuitive things in all of econ. It's called Baumol's cost disease. Back in the 1960s, two economists, Baumol and Bowen, noticed something weird about a string quartet. It takes 4 musicians the same amount of time to play a Beethoven piece today as it did in 1826. You can't make it more productive. You can't play it twice as fast or fire one guy and do it with 3. The labor is the product and you can't automate it. Here's the disease. Even though the quartet never gets more productive, the musician's pay still has to go up, because if you pay them 1826 wages, they'll dip and go get a modern job. They have to earn roughly what they could make elsewhere. So follow it. The factory worker gets more productive, so the factory pays more and charges less. The musician gets 0 more productive but has to be paid more anyway, so they don't quit. And that extra pay has nowhere to go but price. Now swap string quartet for nurse, teacher, daycare worker, Doctor. Jobs where the human is the service. You can't automate a kindergarten teacher or have one nurse cover a ward twice as fast without everything falling apart. So their pay rises with the economy, their productivity barely moves, and the cost has nowhere to go but up. The stuff that's hardest to automate gets relentlessly more expensive, because it's hard to automate. Wild, right? The more human a job is, the more it quietly eats your budget. Now if I were selling you a clean answer, I'd stop here and go, it's all Baumol, case closed. But that'd be lying, and the real picture is spicier. Economists actually fight about how much of this is cost disease. One big study, Archibald and Feldman in 2006, said the Baumol effect is the main driver of rising college costs. But another, Martin and Hill in 2014, found it explains only about 23 to 32%. And some public college research pins faculty pay at as little as 6% of a typical year's tuition hike. So cost disease is real, but it's one ingredient, not the whole recipe. What else is in there? For college, an explosion of administrators, not teachers, luxury dorms and climbing walls to flex on rivals, and the big one, easy student loans that let colleges crank prices because someone will always lend you the money. For healthcare, insurance spaghetti, zero real price competition, an aging population, and incentives that reward more treatment, not better results. So the honest take is layered. Cost disease sets the floor, and then broken markets and bad policy stack extra on top. Disease is the tide. Bad policy is the wave riding it. Okay, payoff time. Let's connect it to why your life feels expensive even though your stuff is cheap. Look at the two buckets again and ask, which one actually runs your life? The cheap bucket, TVs, gadgets, toys, is optional. Fun, skippable. The expensive bucket, healthcare, school, childcare, rent, is mandatory and life-defining. It's whether you can get sick safely, whether your kids get ahead, whether you have a roof. So here's the cruel little magic trick the average inflation number plays on you. On average, wages roughly kept pace with prices. By the official average, you're basically fine. But the average is a lie of composition. You got wildly richer in the stuff that doesn't matter and meaningfully poorer in the stuff that does. Your phone got incredible, your rent ate you alive. And because the bucket crushing you is the one you can't escape, you feel broke correctly while a chart insists you're fine. You're not crazy. The cheap stuff is the consolation prize. The expensive stuff is the actual game. This isn't just dinner party trivia. It should change how you think about money. 3 takeaways. 1. Stop measuring your life by the cheap bucket. A nicer phone every 2 years feels like progress while the mandatory costs quietly bury you. Comfort isn't progress. 2. The expensive bucket is where the real fight is: housing, healthcare, school, childcare. Optimizing those matters like 10 times more than skipping your daily iced coffee. 3. Cost disease isn't going anywhere. As long as humans can't be automated in care and teaching, those costs keep climbing relative to everything else, so you can't out-frugal it. You have to out-earn it or own a piece of the stuff that rises. So, your TV's 97% cheaper and your hospital bill's 220% more. And it's not a contradiction. It's two economies. The automatable one that gets cheaper forever, and the human one, health, school, care, that gets pricier forever because it's human. The one thing to keep, the stuff you can't automate, is the stuff that'll quietly own your budget, so that's where your money and your attention have to go. If this made the economy finally click, subscribe. Honest version, jokes and receipts. See you next one.